Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been running through the pinball videos lately, I mean the pinball repairs lately, and we haven't filmed all of them. It's Christmas, and we've been really busy trying to get as many games possible ready for Christmas, and whenever we film them, it takes a lot longer to actually repair them. So, for instance, we worked on this firepower, and we filmed playing it, but we didn't film fixing it. But I'm doing something specific on this tri-zone, and I thought that I would film it because it's something that I can make into one little video, and it'll be kind of neat. And we've never done anything like this on these Williams machines. So this is a Williams tri-zone pinball machine, which is a Williams System 6 machine. I believe these came out in maybe 79 or so, something like that. It might have been 78. Let's see, 79. Tri-zone, copyright 1979, Williams Electronics. And again, this is a System 6. So Williams had System 3, System 4, System 6, and System 7, System 9, System 11. I don't know what happened to System 1 or 2, or System 5, or why was there no System 8? Never saw a System 10. Right? I'm sure those were prototypes and stuff, but this is a System 6. So what that means is, if you haven't had a ton of pinball machines, what that means is that Williams designed a new system of boards that run their games, and the System 6 stuff was kind of a variation on their System 4 stuff and System 3 stuff. But once they had a system down, they could use these same game boards to run several different machines. So they might have put out 6 or 7 different titles that use these exact same game boards. And of course the artwork would be different, the layout would be different. To the player, you wouldn't realize that it was the exact same system, but to operators and to the engineers that designed the games, it was easier to make one set of boards that worked for several machines than to make a different, reinvent the wheel on every single machine. So this particular one, as you can see, we've got it up and running. We've went through and worked on some of the boards. We haven't got everything finished yet. Excuse me. So we worked on the power supply a little bit. We worked on the driver board. We worked on the CPU board. We haven't done the soundboard yet. But what I'm up to now is I'm trying to fix the displays. So when we did this firepower, about half of the displays didn't work right. So I took some of the displays off of this tri-zone to fix the firepower, because it's a Williams System 6 as well, uses the exact same displays. So what we have left on this tri-zone, and again, these are all games that we're taking out of storage or buying off of people that are sitting around in parts, and we're getting them back together and up and running again like they should be, like the wonderful pieces of entertainment that they are. Right? So this tri-zone has been moved on down the line, and we took some of the displays off of it to fix the firepower. Well, now we're fixing the tri-zone. I mean, we're not parting this thing. We just stole a few parts off of it to finish up the firepower. So the way these worked on a System 3, 4, 5, and 6, I believe they changed it once they got the system. There wasn't on a System 3, 4, and 6. I believe they changed it once they got the System 7, but the way it worked was there was one big board. The glass is hanging off of it, but there was one big board that was the ball and play and the credits display board, and then it had all of these chips on it that ran it, and all of the other boards plugged into it. And so that's the player 1 board. You can see it's also falling off the board. And then there should be a player 2, a player 3, and a player 4. But they're all ran by this board, which is called the master board. And then these are the slave boards. They are just plugged into the master board. And that's how they get their signals and stuff. These 2 connectors over here on the left, the smaller ones, come from the MPU up here. And then they come from the power supply here. One of these days, I'm going to get the right radio caps. God, I hate that. I need to order some of those. So the the signals send from the MPU and the power supply down through this little hole in the back of this panel and run to that display on the front. So we're going to take that apart and check it out, and then we're going to test our other, see if we can get 4 displays that work. So where are we going to get the other displays that work? Well, we also have this Williams Phoenix that we're working on. This is the same system. I think it's a system 4. I don't know for sure, but I know I'm probably confusing you with all the numbers, but a system 3, a system 4, a system 6, and a system 7 are all very similar. So it is a different system, but it's basically the same type of thing. And it has the same displays in it. So I have 2 master displays, and I've got 5 slave displays that I can use to, I need to get 4 of them working. So I need to get 1 master display and 4 slaves working to get the tri-zone working. Well, then this one won't have any boards in it. So why do I keep kicking it down the road? What in the world are we doing, right? So what are we going to do when we need the displays for our Williams Phoenix, which is the last of these early system 3, 4, 6 Williams games that we have in at the moment? So where are we going to get the displays for this one? Just in time for Christmas, I have ordered a set of displays that you build. So this is a replacement LED set that you actually put together, and you put the chips on the boards and populate it. So we're going to do those for our Phoenix game whenever we get it up and running. So if I can get enough boards to get, we've already got the Firepower's displays all right, and now we're going to try to get the Tri-Zone's displays all right. We're going to build this new set of displays and put them in the Phoenix. So we're using 3 machines to make 2 sets of displays, and then buying a brand new set for the last machine. I'm going to film all that whenever we put that together and test it and everything, but it'll be on a different video. So in today's video, we're just going to try to get this Tri-Zone displays to work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the equivalent of this, the master display, off of the Tri-Zone, and let's check it out and see what's going on with it. Here is our master display board. So it's an interesting little setup that they were able to have, you know, 1 satellite board, and it seems like they did this over and over again. You know, they had their main MPU board and the driver board, and this is all the different pinball companies. They had their main MPU board and the driver board that did the lamp, or well, on Williams did the lamps and the solenoids and all, and the switches. And then they could just add an extra board, like a satellite board that wires ran to, and it made it do other stuff. So they had this separate board that basically did all the display stuff. And then they, you know, they had a separate board that did all the sound and all that. And it's just, it was interesting how they could just add more stuff. On the Bally's, you saw that a lot too. They would have a lamp driver board, and if it wasn't enough lamps, they'd just add a second lamp driver board as a component thing. The difference between the Williams displays and the Bally displays, on the Williams displays, it always showed zeros all the way through. So like if your score was 500 points, it would say 0, 0, 0, 5, 0, 0. And keep in mind, Williams was out first. So I'm pretty sure, I may have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure Williams was the first solid state system. You basically had Williams, Gottlieb, and Bally. My favorite of the solid states are Bally, just because they're, in my opinion, they're a lot more reliable, just and easier to work on. And then also they had the same boards for a long time, so it's once you learn how to fix those, you can fix any Bally no problem. The Williams ones would be next, although they had some weird issues with the driver board, that interconnect in the middle of the driver board and the MPU, and they had the weird kind of thing with the displays. And then the Gottliebs had all kinds of problems. They died early, and but if you buy a Gottlieb game and just assume that you're going to put a brand new MPU in it, just assume there's no way you're going to be able to use the MPU that's in it. Just put a new MPU in it. They're very reliable once you do that. You rebuild the power supply, put a brand new MPU in it, the things work for forever. But anyway, back to the Williams displays. These ran on a slightly lower voltage than the, so I should mention this. So the systems, in my opinion, the Bally's were the best system, the Williams was the second best system, and the Gottlieb was the third best system. But on the displays, the Bally's were the worst system, the Williams were the second worst system, and the Gottliebs were the best system it's kind of because of the voltage that they use. So the Gottlieb displays usually don't go bad. Most of them are still working, even after the machine no longer works. The Williams displays are pretty reliable. You have to work on them. There's some resistors and things that you have to work on. But the Bally displays, they ran at a much higher voltage and they burnt up. You would get burn marks all over the displays where they were no longer legible. You can see this one is burning a little bit. See how these two digits are brighter or lighter than these two, and these two digits too. That one's a little darker and this one's a little darker. That's just because this one never gets used and this one never gets used on this master display. But they run at, you know what? I wonder if they run at actually the same voltage as the Bally's, because they have a positive 100 volt and they have a negative 100 volt, whereas the difference being 200 volts, and the Bally's run at about 185 volts. So I might be wrong about that. These may be running at 200 volts with the negative 100 and positive 100. But anyway, it doesn't really matter to us. We're just going to fix them, right? So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully glue that back down flat. Now, if you look at these chips here, they look all messed up. I don't think they are messed. Well, I know they're not messed up because you saw that this one was actually still working, as was the one slave that was hooked up to it. I think that's spray glue. I think somebody has sprayed some kind of glue on this and glued this back down at some point. And I know the name of the guy that did it. His name was Ken. I see what you did, Ken. So Ken says, checked good, December 19th, 1989. Now I am sitting here on December 9th, 2019. 30 years after Ken, down to within a week or so. 30 years after Ken said this thing checked out good. And let me tell you, Ken, the sequel is, it still checks out good. It doesn't really look all that good, but it's still up and running. So you did a pretty good job last time you worked on it, Ken. But anyway, these things are pretty reliable. Like I said, they've got, some power comes in over here. I don't know if these are, I think maybe these are the, let's see. Maybe these are the strobe connections. So this is the power, and then this one, they go over here where there is no chip populated. It wasn't designed in like that. And then you have 4 more lines that run over this way and go to that chip. Okay. And on this side, you have a connector coming from the MPU that runs right into those 3 chips on the edge of the board there. Right, and then they run out of there into the other chips. So these UDN 7180A chips run the segments. So they basically figure out the information that the MPU is sending to it, and it is what tells each digit which segment to turn on. So if you want a 3, then this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one all have to be on, but that one and that one have to be off. So this chip is what figures that out. So there's 2 of them. There's that one, it runs 3 displays, and then there's this one, which runs 2 displays. So there's this display and then the 4 slave boards. So one of them runs 2 of them and one of them runs 3 of them. You can even tell by looking at the traces which ones do what. Let's see here. Yeah, so these are jumping across these resistors and they're going out where the second display hooks up, and then they're also going over here to where the 3rd display hooks up, I believe. unless they hook up different. This chip runs this one and this one, whichever one's plugged in there. I'm trying my hardest not to break that thing before I fix it. Okay, and then this one over here. If we look on the back, connects to those resistors, which runs this fourth connector, and then also runs over here to the first connector. And then what? How does it get to the? Which one of them is hooked to this? So one of the two of them also runs this one, okay? And then these other chips are UDN 6148s. So what they do is they turn on the digits. So they get a strobe and some information. And so they tell which digit to turn on. So, I wonder if, you know, since they're always all on, oh, I guess it's telling it which, I guess it's telling it when this one turns on certain segments, which digit it should be turning those segments on. So, and it's all done with it really fast where you can't even see it happening with a strobe line that syncs everything up. But there are several of those. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Now, the number one problem that you see on these are these little resistors right here. So I don't know how many of them there even are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 there. And then there's 7 there. So I guess there's 14 total. These resistors burn up all the time. You see how some of them are a different color? That's because they've been replaced at some point. Probably by our buddy Ken, who did such a great job back in 1989. These resistors, if you get one of the, what was wrong with the firepower is if you get one of the slave boards with the glass messed up. So these chips tell the glass, you know, turn on this bottom line, this bottom segment, and then that segment, that segment, that segment, and that segment to make a 3. Well, sometimes, like the bottom line will be shorted to one of the other ones or something. And so when that happens, it sends power away that it shouldn't send it, or it pulls too much power or whatever, but it eventually comes back to this board and it burns up one of these resistors. So see how on that board those two are, it's all burnt behind it? I wonder if I can see it from the back. Yeah. So see the heat? So at some point those two resistors burn up and Ken replaced them. And look, it looked like everything was cool, but the reason there's 14 is because, and I don't know why there, I guess there's 7 segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 7 segments. So these 7 run the 3 displays that this chip runs. And these 7 run the 2 displays or 3 displays, whatever it is, that this chip runs. So if you ever get one of these and you've got like your bottom line is burnt out, doesn't work, or maybe this one doesn't work, look back on this board and see if any of these resistors are burnt up. And if they are, replace them. And it's like a 2-cent part or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue this back down. I'm going to clean all of these metal fingers to get all of the dirt and grime off of them, so that whenever the pin slides on there it'll make good contact. Right? And then we are going to simply check those resistors, those 14 resistors, and if they're pretty close, we're going to leave them. And then we're going to put it back in and make sure it still works, and then we're going to work on the satellite boards. The good thing about the satellite boards is there's nothing really to them. It's just the glass mounted on a board. So you clean the connections. Sometimes you have a problem with a pin in the connector or something. You make sure they're glued down flat so that they don't hit the back glass. And that's that. They either work or they don't. And they're like I said, we have 5 of them, and we need 4. So hopefully we've only got one that's messed up, but we'll go through each one and see. Y'all keep your fingers crossed for me. One other thing I'm going to do is, see how this chip is in a socket? Anytime a chip is in a socket, it's good because you can easily change the chip, but it's also a place where you can get a bad connection. So the pins that are going down inside the socket, there is a little blade in there that's touching the side of the pin. Well, over time, corrosion and oxidation and dirt and dust and stuff can get all over that, to where even though they're touching, they're no longer electrically transmitting, or they may be there's just resistance there. Resistance causes heat. You don't want all that stuff. So anytime there's a chip that's in a socket that's been in there for years, I take the chip out, I clean the legs of the chip and put it back in. So we'll do that too. So I'll mess with that a little bit. We'll see how clean we can get it, and then we'll pop it back in. I glued the glass back down, and I've got some weight sitting on the glass to hopefully hold it flat. And then this is our number 1 display, which was actually still up and running, but it's got the same problem that the glue has dried up over the years, and now it's hanging off. You see the little sticker says Cherry. These are Cherry brand displays, and nobody makes them anymore, but like we mentioned earlier, you can now put LEDs in them, and I like the look of them. So all this board is just a way for the connector to connect to the glass. And then there are traces that send the signal that comes up the connector to whatever pin on the glass it needs to go to. So sometimes you'll have some bad solder joints on those pins, and you need to clean the edge here, and you need to glue the glass back down flat. But if that doesn't fix it, there's no way to fix it. Basically, it needs new glass. So what we've been doing for 20 years now is buying these like off eBay and stuff, or out of people's parts stash, because there were so many Williams ones that were still good. They don't go bad that often, these slave displays. So we've been buying them for years. Everybody has. But it's pretty much drying up now. It's getting a lot harder to get them, and they're a lot more expensive. So it's to the point now where the LED displays are really viable, because you can replace the whole setup, and the things last theoretically for forever. I don't know if anybody's ever had any that stopped working yet, but they last a lot longer than these are going to last. But since we have these, we're going to get one more machine's worth out of them. So I'm going to just clean that connector like I said. I'm going to glue this back flat. Whew, I don't like the sound of that. I'm going to glue this back flat, and then we're going to install it back in the machine and see if we can find 3 other ones that work. I glued those suckers. I glued them, and I left them laying overnight. Look at that. I put Gorilla Glue all on the back of them, and then I put a bunch of weight on it. Look at that, Ken. Ken, that's how you should have been done it. Ken, you'll be happy to know that we have glued them in, and I think they're going to stay this time. I'll bet it's permanent. I'll bet the glass shorts out before it falls off of them suckers again. Okay, so you may wonder, why did I put that one in the 3rd position when it was originally in the 1st position? It's because this first digit was a little bit burned whenever it was turned off. You can't really tell it when it's on though. Yeah, you know. So the whole thought is you put the best one as the first player, and you put a good one as the second player, and then as they get worse, you know, if you end up with one where a digit's missing or something, you put that for that schmuck that's going to play 4th. But so far so good. All right, so I'm going to pull some off of the Phoenix, and we'll see if any of them look all right. Here is our next one that we have stolen off the Phoenix. Now look at this. It's actually a little bit different. See how it's got commas? The ones on there do not have commas. So what's happened is, at some point somebody has replaced this with a new glass. See how the leads are long? somebody put a brand new glass on it, which you used to be able to do a lot easier because you could still buy them, but now all you can get are like new old stock ones, and they're like $50 per glass or something like that. So I'm gonna put this one on there. If it makes the comma light up, I'm gonna see if there's a pin I can cut or something where the comma doesn't light up, but I'm thinking that it won't light up. It's probably one of these pins that no trace runs to. So I cleaned up the connector, and we'll try it in there. Since it's a newer glass, we'll try it in our first player display. Alright folks, unfortunately this one's messed up. First of all, the middle segment never lights, and the bottom left segment is a little suspicious. So because of that, you only have two options. You might have a situation where if you plug another one in there, it's like the wiring or something, or the main board, but we already had another one plugged in there. So you can try that one in another location just to make sure that it's not the wiring or the board. But pretty much that's going to be that glass is screwed up and there's no way to fix it. But we're going to take it off and look at it just to make sure everything's soldered well. So that's another one that I took off of the Phoenix, and it is nice. So it's working good, everything's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that other one that we were just messing with over here on this second player just temporarily, and see what its effect is. Alright, so as you see, that middle is missing whenever it's on the second player, and every once in a while you see that bottom left segment trip a little bit too. So it's doing the exact same thing whether it's on one player or two player. And after we put another one on the one player, that one is just fine. So the problem is definitely on the board. Oh, and by the way, you can't just like we couldn't take that and put it as the fourth one, because that segment being missing and that other one messing up is going to burn up those resistors on the main display. So in Williams games you can't really get away with using a halfway screwed up display. It's going to cause you more problems than it's worth. So another one off the Phoenix works. I figured I better try it before I take the time to glue it. That one works, we just got to glue it. And then I've got a fourth one off the Phoenix that is loose. So I figured we'd just glue it and then we'll try it last just as a surprise. Let's see if I'm completely freaking screwed or not. But this one looks like it's fine, so I'll glue it too. It was marked okay by Ken or somebody. That's off a different game, so it probably wasn't Ken. So I think I've got three good ones and the main display, but I have to glue this one. And then I've got another one that I've already glued, but I haven't tested yet, so. Clunk, clunk, clunk. All right, folks, so we glued our last two together, which was this one. I think this is the one we already tested, wasn't it? I think that was the one we already tested. And then this was one of the ones still left in the machine. So we glued those two together. Everything's glued together now. I honestly do not know if they work, so I'm gonna turn them on with you and we'll see if we get lucky. That looks good. Okay, so we'll put it in test mode, which is that. And watch how scary this is whenever you press this button to go into test. Watch this. It looks like something fried, right? Then you hit it again, and then if you push it back up, it automatically steps through all the numbers. So let's go through them. All right, so the ball and play one is just fine. Number one is just fine. Number two, I think, is the only one we haven't really tested yet. It's just fine. Number three, it's just fine. And player number four, it looks completely fine. Very cool. All right, so I think we got our displays working. So we've still got some stuff we need to do to it. We need to get the sound working. We need to rebuild the flippers. We need to replace all of the light bulbs underneath it. Got to work on some pop bumper caps. But yeah, got our displays looking good. Now we just need to get our back glass going. So it looks like we pulled it off. We got 2 full sets of displays out of 3 machines, and that leaves us with the new set of displays that we can rebuild and put in that Phoenix. Coming to a YouTube video near you soon. So stay tuned for that. So we didn't really do too much repair on this video. We just made them look a little better. Got them back glued flat. Ken would be so proud of us. It's cool seeing these old machines get a little love, you know. This thing deserves to have 5 working displays, and it deserves to be up and running with the board serviced and the playfield waxed. And I wonder if it'll start. No sound again, you know? No sound and no ball in it. We're on 0. What happens if we roll through that? Give us 2,000. What happens if we hit that? Gives us 1,000. Alright, so we seem to be up and running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this thing, and we get the back glass back on it. I'm going to get everything working right, get the sound working, all of that. And then we're going to film a video of us playing it. But this is just about the displays, and we got the displays doing their thing. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Give us a thumbs up for this cool old machine, Williams Tri-Zone. You don't see this one too often anymore. Williams Tri-Zone. Back glass is pretty crazy. You'll like that whenever we get to it. Leave your comments below. Give us a thumbs up, like I said. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, subscribe to us below. And every time we get something cool that we're doing, we'll film it like this. Now I know if you're watching us on TV, it's harder to subscribe to us, but you can subscribe to us if you try. But leave your comments below, and we will see you on the next video. This is Williams Tri-Zone.